Many people have been disappointed with Avowed's gameplay showing at the Xbox Developer Direct. The main points of concern and criticism have been surrounding the enemy AI and combat. One defense I've seen is that this is a stat-based action RPG and it's hard to show the impact of melee combat as opposed to a straight action game. However, my main concern is with the impact and reactions of enemies and their ragdolls and physics in combat. I believe that these are all things that should not be affected by it being an RPG, and absolutely could and should be better. But before we get too worried, we must bear two things in mind. We have mainly seen one enemy race in combat, and therefore only their reactions, plus the game is in the alpha stage of development. So it is very possible that what we have seen is not the final quality, and things like enemy reactions in combat will be improved in the polishing phase. With that said, it is important to be critical. We can only judge what we have been shown. It is up to Obsidian and Xbox to put their best foot forward. They are selling a product, so it is up to them to impress people and sell them on the game. The most notably lacking part of Avowed is the lack of impact of the melee combat and how the enemies respond. It looks stiff and lacks weight on impact. Enemies barely flinch when struck, and when defeated, they seem to deactivate like droids and crumple to the ground. It just looks awful. It doesn't matter how they were hit or by what, they just fall to the ground disappointingly. The absence of a gore system, at least for the enemies that we've seen, also doesn't help. For non-lethal attacks, there is a slight reaction, but with how one-handed sword attacks appear a bit slow, it looks weightless. Some blood can be seen, but it doesn't always appear, and when it does, it feels out of place. The weapons that we've been shown don't feel heavy or powerful. They look floaty and like the player is fighting with a stick. At least when the player is also using an ice spell, it looks good when frozen enemies are destroyed. Magic overall fares a bit better because of the fast wand animations and the sometimes better impact with targets. But the same problem persists with enemies deactivating and slumping to the ground. It's not all bad though. There is one brief shot where the player shoots a skeleton and it goes flying backwards. That is a good reaction and what the rest of the combat should look like. First-person melee combat has always been hard to get right. We can look at a game like Skyrim, which is over a decade old and has always been criticized for its poor and floaty melee combat. But even this looks better than what we've seen from Avowed. Skyrim can look fine with the combination of decent physics and ragdolls, death animations, and the occasional kill cam. While this is a low bar, here's to hoping that the final product will at least look better than Skyrim. Now, it must be said that most people do not play these games for the combat, but rather for the storytelling, strong RPG mechanics, lore, and so much more. But the combat and gameplay are just not the focus for this type of game. It's often serviceable, but rarely is it the strongest part, and it is usually just a means to an end. If we look at their previous work, The Outer Worlds had similar issues with spotty AI that was often far too easy and pretty average gunplay. Upon revisiting this title, I noticed that even its melee combat often looks better than what we've seen so far from Avowed. While liking The Outer Worlds has become a less popular opinion over the years, many enjoyed it because they loved its world, characters, and role-playing opportunities, not because of its moment-to-moment gameplay. Despite my concerns with its lackluster-looking combat, I remain optimistic and excited for Avowed. I sincerely hope that the things I talked about can be sorted out before the release later this year. Only time will tell, but given Obsidian's track record, I'm confident that Avowed will be a great game and RPG, even if these issues with combat aren't fixed. Just remember to never pre-order and instead wait for reviews before giving them your hard-earned money. You know what won't cost you anything? Liking the video and subscribing. I make videos about things I'm passionate about, and if that sounds interesting, consider joining me. Let me know your thoughts about the video down below, and if you'd like to see more like this, let me know. Thanks for watching and have a great day.